You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
The heat is here, and your AC is working overtime to keep your home cool. Did you know a dirty air filter can make your AC unit work even harder? Keep your AC running smoothly while helping improve your indoor air quality by installing a Filtrete MPR 1900 air filter. It captures 24% more particles in the air than the MERV 13 industry standard, all while letting cleaner, cooler air through. Cleaner air, reliable airflow.
And away we go, episode 1115 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Monday, July 21st, 2025. It is the 2-year anniversary of the closing of the sale of the Commanders. From Dan and Tanya Snyder to the Josh Harris Group, we had the closing of the sale on Friday morning, July 21st, 2023. What a glorious day that was. So much has been so much better for our team ever since. This also is the day before veteran players report for 2025 Commanders training camp, for which rookies reported on Friday. And the Commanders on Friday afternoon announced having signed cornerback Trey Amos, who the team took out of Ole Miss in the second round of the 2025 NFL Draft. So the team has signed all of its picks in the 2025 NFL Draft. And this is the day before Commanders general manager Adam Peters and Commanders head coach Dan Quinn speak at a joint press conference. This is a big week. Commanders training camp is getting going. Football season has arrived. Hello and welcome to this Monday installment of the Al Galdi podcast, on which we talk Commanders on every episode, no matter the time of year. Or should I say that this is a podcast on which we talk Washington Redskins football team on every episode. The President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, he on Sunday morning on Truth Social calling for the Commanders to go back to being the Redskins. Quote, the Washington whatevers should immediately change their name back to the Washington Redskins football team. There is a big clamoring for this, end quote. I like that Trump, instead of saying Washington Redskins, said Washington Redskins football team. He combined Washington Redskins and Washington football team for some reason. Now, Trump on Sunday afternoon on Truth Social said, quote, my statement on the Washington Redskins has totally blown up, but only in a very positive way. I may put a restriction on them that if they don't change the name back to the original Washington Redskins and get rid of the ridiculous moniker Washington Commanders, I won't make a deal for them to build a stadium in Washington. The team would be much more valuable and the deal would be more exciting for everyone. End quote. Holding the Commanders' next stadium being on the RFK Stadium site in D.C. over the team's head if the team doesn't change the name back to Redskins. Look, I have my doubts about all of this resulting in the team changing its name back to Redskins. The Josh Harris group, of course, has made it clear that the team is not going back to being the Redskins. Now, I believe that's due to the NFL not allowing the Harris group to go back to Redskins, but this is by far the most forceful that Trump has been on the issue of the name Redskins, an issue that he now has commented on multiple times in recent weeks. Next segment, high-level Commanders conversation, as I'll speak with our good friend, Commanders analyst Mark Bullock of Bullock's Film Room, which you can find at markbullock.substack.com. Mark is going to give us all 22 style analysis of edge defender Von Miller and of receiver Terry McLaurin. Mark, regarding Von Miller, off him signing with the Commanders, will explain how he still has a lot left as a pass rusher, what an appropriate playing time percentage for Miller for the Commanders in the 2025 regular season would be, how Miller is against the run at this point in his career, whether Mark now feels better about the Commanders' pass rush or pass coverage, and more. And Mark, regarding Terry McLaurin, will examine this age issue with him as we do remain in the midst of stalled contract extension negotiations between him and the team, including whether there is any reason to believe that a decline for McLaurin is imminent, whether general manager Adam Peters should be concerned about giving McLaurin a big money contract extension that would start with his age 31 season, and to what extent McLaurin's game is predicated on his speed. Lots of good stuff with Mark Bullock next segment. By the way, regarding Von Miller, we on Saturday morning got the reported terms of his contract with the Commanders, a one-year, $6.1 million deal with an upside of $10.5 million via incentives. And regarding the Terry McLaurin situation, so the Commanders on Friday afternoon on X put up a post with a montage of photos regarding players getting engaged/married this offseason. Not in the montage was McLaurin, who got married this offseason. Now, the team in February on X put up a big photo regarding him getting married, but the team on Friday afternoon, 3 days after he sounded off in a 32-plus minute session with reporters about his frustration with the contract extension talks, did not include McLaurin in the montage, and McLaurin, or at least his X account, liked a response criticizing the team for not including McLaurin in the montage. All of this seems silly, I know, and in a lot of ways, all of this is quite silly, but him liking that response is perhaps telling. I mean, we know how things are these days on social media. McLaurin is not happy with the team right now, and the team may well not be happy with him. That said, I do still think that an extension between the Commanders and McLaurin is going to get done. Also on the show, I'll talk Wizards, Nationals, and Orioles. As remember, this is the podcast that follows Washington, D.C. area sports so that you don't have to. We on Saturday evening had some breaking Wizards buyouts, and during our Wizards segment, we'll discuss former Wizard Bradley Beal of him being bought out by the Phoenix Suns and signing with the Los Angeles Clippers. Might it be that the Wizards' trade of Beal was better than we thought? Interesting comments from Nats interim general manager Mike DeBartolo on Saturday afternoon regarding his thought process for the 2025 MLB Trade Deadline, which is on July 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'll react to what he said and give you my thoughts on the Nats losing 2 out of 3 games against the San Diego Padres at Nationals Park over the weekend, and have a breakdown of the O's losing 2 out of 3 games at the Tampa Bay Rays over the weekend. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Lots of feedback on something that I posted on X this past Thursday afternoon and said on this past Friday show, episode 1114, and that is that the Commanders having a lot of older players is a function primarily of 2 things. A, the team's 4 years of bad drafts with Rod Rivera as head coach in charge of player personnel, to say nothing of the team's bad drafting before then, and B, the team now being in win-now mode due to quarterback Jaden Daniels being so good. Indeed, the average age of the Commanders' entire active roster as of July 7th, if you included Von Miller, was an NFL high 27 years and 291 days. From Zim on X, going to take years to fix and is going to take an above-average hit rate, somehow have to get more picks, but the team also needs the high-end talent of round 1. Thank you for that, Zim. From Disco on X. True, but you've got to have draft picks to get younger. As of now, we don't have a 2nd or a 4th next year. Thank you for that, Disco. The Commanders traded their second and fourth round picks in the 2026 NFL Draft to the Houston Texans in the trade for left tackle Laramie Tunsil this past March. If Tunsil performs for the Commanders as he has for the Texans, then that to me is a good trade. I'm more than happy to have given up those picks and others. So the trade was a second-round pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, a third-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, a fourth-round pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, and a seventh-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft to the Texans for Tunsil, and a fourth-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. From every Redskin ever on X, the damage Ron Rivera did to this team is immeasurable. Thank you for that, every Redskin ever. How dare you impugn our guy Ron?
Growth and development?
That is correct, Ron. Growth and development from Scott Cobb on X. I think Peters overestimated how good the team is, and win now mode will be seen as an error. Plus, his trades and free agent signings have been poor, and drafts have been mediocre. Given their ages, Debo, Ertz, and Wagner likely will miss significant time this season. Thank you for that, Scott. Look, it certainly is possible that older players like receiver Debo Samuel Sr. and tight end Zach Ertz and linebacker Bobby Wagner will miss significant time this coming season, although Wagner has been exceptionally durable throughout his career. Time will tell on Adam Peters drafting as Commanders general manager. Too early to pass judgment, but it is totally wrong to say that Peters' free agent signings as Commanders GM have been poor. The exact opposite is true. Peters' free agent class for last offseason was outstanding. Linebackers Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, edge defenders Dante Fowler Jr. and Dorrance Armstrong, safety Jeremy Chin, quarterback Marcus Mariota, center Tyler Biadasz, left guard Nick Allegretti, receiver Olamide Zaccheaus, and you can also include receiver Noah Brown, although he was signed close to the start of the regular season. But tight end Zach Ertz, running back Austin Eckler, all of those guys were free agent hits. From SD on X, why do you suppose such a blinding flash of the obvious is twisted into Adam Peters bashing? It's horrible. The hosts on 980 do it. The local beat does it. So if you get this fact, you hit the nail on the head, Al. Well, thank you for that, SD. From Tom Friend on X. Tom Friend covered the Redskins for the Washington Post October 1987 to January 1990. They're young at the only position that matters. Thank you for that, Tom. Yes, sir. Jaden Daniels entering just his age 25 season. The Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. It has been a Washington, D.C. institution for decades. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers, and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group offers fierce advocacy on behalf of medical malpractice, birth injury, and personal injury victims. Led by the great Chris Nace, the Nace Law Group is focused on providing exceptional care and counsel for those who need such things the most. The Nace Law Group fights for what it believes in, you, your family, and your future. You with the Nace Law Group have an experienced advocate on your side. The Nace Law Group has secured millions of dollars in verdict and settlement amounts for clients to better enable them to care for themselves and their families. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com, and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. If you have never given this podcast a 5-star rating and or have never written a nice review of the podcast, please consider doing so. You on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews. 5-star ratings are very much appreciated. Positive reviews are very much appreciated. These things take like 30 seconds to do, but do help us out a lot when it comes to securing advertising. And if you've already rated and reviewed the podcast, thank you. So what are the Commanders getting in edge defender Von Miller? On the one hand, he's entering his age 36 season. On the other hand, his pass rushing metrics for this past season were really good. Miller in the 2024 regular season had 6 sacks, despite playing on just 25.27% of the Buffalo Bills' defensive snaps. Miller for the 2024 regular season had an overall grade per Pro Football Focus of 82.4. That's quite good. PFF grades are on a scale of 0 to 100. 60 is average. Miller for the 2024 regular season was number 10 among all qualified NFL edge defenders in pass rush win percentage per PFF at 17.6. And Miller for the 2024 regular season among all players each with at least 150 pass rushes recorded the quickest pass rush get-off time in the NFL per the NFL's next-gen stats at 0.69 seconds. For proper analysis of Von Miller and for perspective on this age issue with receiver Terry McLaurin, I'm very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast Commanders analyst Mark Bullock. Mark is exceptional at talking Commanders from an X's and O's standpoint. He does tremendous Commanders All-22 breakdowns. You could read his work on his Substack, Bullock's Film Room, which you could find at markbullock.substack.com. Mark has written for The Athletic and for The Washington Post. He also is a Commanders fan. You could follow Mark on X at Mark Bullock NFL. Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. How about you?
Doing well. Good to talk to you. You on your Substack on July 17th put up a breakdown of Von Miller. Headline, quote, what Von Miller brings to the Washington Commanders, end quote. You wrote, quote, while Miller's snaps have decreased, it's clear to see when watching him that he has a lot to offer as a pass rusher, end quote. The advanced stats do very much like Miller's 2024 season. Did what you saw in the All-22 footage back up what those stats say?
Yeah, well, I can't say I know 100% what the numbers are. I haven't looked into the numbers, but from studying, I think I watched about 8 games of him on Thursday morning, and from last year with the Bills, and including like playoff games and games throughout the season. And he definitely still has pass rush juice. Now, the thing to caveat everything is that he's not the player he once was. He's not coming in to be a starter and play 80 or 90% of the snaps. Like he hasn't played more than 60% of the snaps since 2022, I think. And even then, that was only a few games. The past few seasons, he's only played about 30 to 33% of the snaps. So he's only playing about a third of the snaps each game. So everyone should be aware what his role is going to be coming in is going to be as a situational pass rusher. It's going to be third downs. It's going to be 2-minute drills. Obvious passing situations when teams are behind trying to catch up. That's going to be when he's on the field. It's not going to be every single down. So that's the first thing that's worth pointing out, what his role is going to be. But I think he can still be a very productive player in that role. He had 6 sacks last year in a very similar role for the Bills. I don't see any reason why he couldn't replicate that number. He's only something like 8.5 sacks away from being top 10 of the all-time NFL sack leaders list. So I'm sure he'll be wanting to get as far up that list as he can. And when you watch him and his rush plans, you can still see that there is one hell of a pass rusher there. Now, he might not necessarily have the burst and the elite quickness and bend that he had coming out of college and in his younger years, but he's still very quick off the line. He still times snaps very well. And he's still very much a genuine threat to the vast majority of offensive tackles that he plays against, with his speed off the edge. And then he has a whole game built around that. So you could see various times throughout the year where he showed, he would start off showing his speed rush and getting tackles worried about that. And then as soon as they were oversetting to do that, he would transition from speed to power and attack them at the right time, knowing that they were off balance, trying to deal with his speed, and then he'd knock them backwards with power. He'd beat them with an inside move. He'd go up and under. He'd use a spin move. He shows great hand placement and great hand techniques. So he has a wide variety of ways to beat players, to beat tackles, and he still offers a hell of a lot as a pass rusher. So I think he can still be a very, very effective player in the role that he's going to play. But I want to temper expectations in the role he's going to play. People think like he's a Dante Fowler replacement, and he is in that Dante Fowler last year was signed to be a situational pass rusher, and then because of the injuries, he ended up playing a lot more than he was meant to. He's being signed to play the role that Fowler was meant to play last year before those injuries. And I think if they were to get more injuries, they wouldn't then turn to Von Miller at, what was he, 36 now? I don't think they turn to him and go, okay, we need you to be the starter and play 60, 70, 80% of the snaps. It's going to be, okay, we need to keep you in that role because that's where you are at in your career, and we need to go sign someone else to be a starter. So I think I want to temper expectations into what his role is going to be, but I think he can be very, very effective in the role that he is going to play.
Von Miller last regular season for the Bills, 13 games, 25.27% of the Bills' defensive snaps. Miller in the 2023 regular season for the Bills, 12 games, 24.07% of the Bills' defensive snaps. What do you think would be an appropriate playing time percentage for him for the Commanders in the 2025 regular season?
Yeah, I would think right around that kind of 25 to 35 range. I'd say 30% of the snaps probably is right around where you want him to be, to keep him as fresh as possible, keep him playing as effectively as he can. And that would be like, in an ideal world, you're doing first down, second down, third down, and then you're getting off the field. So there's the same amount of downs, and he's just coming on third down to rush the passer. Now, obviously, that's not how football is, and there's going to be a lot more first and second downs than there are third downs. And there obviously will be times when like it's 2-minute drills and you want them on the field more often. But I think you're going to be aiming for around about that kind of 30% mark.
One of the reasons that the Commanders this offseason did not re-sign unrestricted free agent edge defender Dante Fowler Jr. is that he's a liability against the run. How is Von Miller at this point in his career against the run?
He still looked pretty good against the run to me. He showed some really good awareness of different runs, plays coming his way, and runs that went away from him, being able to get inside tight ends and blow those up. He showed some nice awareness on things like jet sweeps, where one that stood out, I think, was against the Rams last year. They tried to run a jet sweep, and he noticed little details like Cooper Kupp came in motion towards him and then had his outside foot planted inside, which planted up, which suggested like he's blocking inside rather than running a route outside. So he kind of anticipated that, oh, he's going to try to block me to get this jet sweep coming around me. So he kind of got outside that block and stopped the jet sweep and forced it back inside and then made the stop. So he still has really good awareness, and that kind of similar to the Bobby Wagner kind of thing, where he understands like he's not necessarily as quick and as sharp athletically as he might have once been, though he's still a pretty good athlete. He's mentally extremely sharp because he's seen everything, he's experienced everything. So I think he could play the run pretty well. I think the thing is you just don't necessarily want him in there on rundowns. You want to keep him fresh for rushing the passer. That's what role he's being signed for.
You on your Substack on July 8th put up a piece with an interesting thought. Headline, quote, "Could the Commanders adjust their defensive fronts this season?" End quote. You wrote, quote, "The Commanders are a base 4-3 team, meaning when they line up in a base defense, they have 4 defensive linemen and 3 linebackers on the field. But I'm wondering if head coach Dan Quinn and defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. might be considering using more 3-man fronts that look more like a 3-4 defense," end quote. Would the team this coming season going to more 3-4 looks impact Von Miller's playing time, or not really?
No, not really. It would be so the idea of that was so that you could get your 3 defensive tackles in Newton, Kinlaw, and Payne all on the field at the same time, as well as like a Dorrance Armstrong at one end and then a Frankie Louvu kind of effectively playing the other end. And that would kind of be your best 5 going forward, rather than like playing a front 4 where you're only playing 2 of those tackles and you're playing Dorrance Armstrong and maybe a weaker defensive end, and then blitzing Frankie Louvu from the linebacker position, which they will still obviously do, but it's just another front that they could show. And Von Miller, if you have him, add him into the mix, he's just lining up at one of the end spots, and you could line him up instead of Dorrance Armstrong. You could then kick Dorrance Armstrong inside to play one of the interior spots and have a better pass rush inside than maybe like a Deron Payne or something like that. So I don't think that would impact it massively. I think he could fit in that kind of scheme as well. Like he played a lot of his career as a 3-4 outside linebacker, which is essentially what that front would have him play as. So no, I don't think it would impact him massively. I think he'd be able to fit into that fine.
If the Mark Bullock Sportsbook is setting betting odds for who will lead the Commanders in sacks for the 2025 regular season, who's the player with the best odds?
I guess the smart answer, I guess, would probably be someone like a Dorrance Armstrong, because he's probably going to play the most snaps, have the most opportunities, and he's going to be someone that they can move around, that can match up both outside and inside. So he'll get chances to match up on different players and that sort of thing. So I get, and he was up there last year, so I would guess him. Maybe in a world where Frankie Louvu becomes more of a rusher than a linebacker, you might suggest him. And maybe in the world where they have such a lead and teams are having to pass a lot more, and Von Miller's on the field a lot, then maybe it's Von Miller. But I would say the safe bet probably is Dorrance Armstrong.
What would you say that you feel better about with the Commanders' defense for this coming season, their pass rush or their pass coverage?
Right now, I would say I have more faith in the pass rush, because I think Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. know how to manufacture a pass rush. They understand how to scheme it up with different schemes, with simulated pressures and stuff like that, but also just blitzes. They can commit more bodies and move different guys around, like we talked about with Dorrance Armstrong. With Dietrich Wise is someone that can move around. Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner can blitz from different spots as well. So I feel better about the pass rush. The coverage, I think, has the potential to be better than what the pass rush is. But there's a lot more question marks around that. Can Marshawn Lattimore be, what Marshawn Lattimore is? Can he get back to his best level? If he can, then great. Then the coverage can be great. Can Mike Sanders still adjust back to playing in the slot? I'm backing him too. I expect him to be good in the slot, but he did struggle at times early last year. And again, that's, he's a rookie, so that you would expect him to, but that is a question mark. You have to see it before you can say, yes, you're comfortable with that. Obviously, Trey Amos is another rookie that we're expecting to start outside, but can he beat out Jonathan Jones? Do you trust him starting outside? How well does he go as a rookie? Rookie corners can have some bumps in the road. So I think there's more question marks about that secondary, but there's also a world where, Lattimore goes back to being Marshawn Lattimore. Trey Amos comes in and is better than what they expect, and Sanders still is what they thought he was going to be in the slot. And suddenly that secondary is looking really good and the coverage is looking a lot better. And then that in turn helps the pass rush. So I think there's potential for the secondary to be better than the pass rush. But I think right now going into camp, I'd feel more comfortable about saying I can trust this scheme to generate more of a pass rush and I have enough questions about the secondary to be unsure about it.
You mentioned that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. know how to manufacture a pass rush. The Commanders for the 2024 regular season per Sport Radar were number 5 in the NFL in blitz percentage, 31.5. Will having Von Miller make it so that the team can get away with blitzing less often?
I think you can go that way. I don't think that's necessarily what they will want to do. I think when you look at the way the Dan Quinn and Joe Witt evolved in Dallas, they got to a point where they were playing a bunch of man coverage and blitzing basically everyone that was available to blitz. They'd leave a safety in the middle of the field, and sometimes they'd leave a whole player underneath, like a linebacker or another safety kind of robbing underneath. But they would be blitzing everyone else. So it was quite often 5 or 6 man blitzes. And that was to force quarterbacks to get rid of the ball quickly and give their DBs a chance to jump the ball and get interceptions. And that's where you saw guys like Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland really excel. And that's kind of the philosophy they want. They want to give their DBs a chance to take away the ball and create interceptions and stuff. I think the way they see that as best being done is by blitzing and generating a lot of pressure. Now, when you have a guy like Von Miller that can work a tackle over and show him a lot of different moves and beat a guy one-on-one consistently, then you can lean more on that and not have to blitz as often. But I think they would rather go the way that they did with Michael Parsons, where they could have just rushed forward with Michael Parsons and been like, well, we've got one of the best pass rushers in the league. But they said, no, we've got one of the best pass rushers in the league. We're going to blitz more and ensure that he's getting one-on-ones constantly, and make him even more effective. And I think that's probably the way they would go with Von Miller.
Much more with Mark Bullock in moments. Are you looking to upgrade the heart of your home? Whether it is time to repair your gas fireplace, modernize your hearth, or simply add more comfort and style, Nova Fireplace and Stove is Northern Virginia's go-to expert for heat, safety, and home transformation. Nova Fireplace and Stove is a family-owned, fully licensed, and insured company with over-the-top credentials, gas and electrical master's licenses, a Class A contractor's license, and a long list of 5-star reviews to back all of this up. Nova Fireplace and Stove has a beautiful showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia. That's where your dream fireplace begins. Come in and see Nova Fireplace and Stove's stunning displays, including custom fireplace glass doors and stone refacing options that can completely transform the look of your fireplace. From sleek and modern to rustic and cozy, Nova Fireplace and Stove has something for every style. And here's what else Nova Fireplace and Stove offers: gas fireplace service and repair, chimney cleaning and brickwork repair, generator installation, panel replacements and water heater repairs, smoke detectors, security lights, and more. Every job includes a free in-home estimate. And for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast, Nova Fireplace and Stove is offering $25 off any service. Just mention this ad. Nova Fireplace and Stove only works in Northern Virginia, and this knows the homes, the codes, and the people. Your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed because Nova Fireplace and Stove takes pride in every flame that is lit and every customer who is served. So stop by the showroom, see what's possible, and let Nova Fireplace and Stove help you bring warmth, safety, and style to your space. You could also visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com. Nova Fireplace and Stove, where comfort meets craftsmanship and your fireplace becomes the heart of your home. We're talking with Commanders analyst Mark Bullock of Bullock's Film Room, which you can find at markbullock.substack.com. Terry McLaurin, the stalled contract extension negotiations, him this past Tuesday afternoon in a 32-plus minute session with reporters sounding off on his frustration with the negotiations. A major reason for the stalled negotiations certainly seems to be this age issue, that he's entering his age 30 season and there aren't many receivers who are very productive in their 30s. Now, McLaurin to me profiles as a receiver who will age well. He has been durable. He excels on contested catches. He's coming off a terrific season. But, of course, there are no guarantees with any NFL player once he enters his 30s. In studying McLaurin this past season, did you see any reason to believe that a decline is imminent?
I can't say there was many. I guess if you're being really picky, there was like one or two plays where he ran deep and he like. The one that sticks to mind is, I think it was against the Steelers, where they ran that little RPO glance play that RG3 and Pierre Garçon ran a bunch back in 2012. And Jaden hit Terry on kind of a slant glance thing, and Terry took off, beat a safety, and ran 50 yards down the field. And it looked like it was going to be a surefire touchdown. And he got caught with about 5 yards to go. And got tackled and didn't score the touchdown. And maybe there was one or two like deep balls where like he caught the deep pass and then got tackled just before the goal line. And maybe you're thinking, a 24-year-old Terry McLaurin doesn't get caught in those situations. He outruns those guys. But that's probably just being picky. And other guys are allowed to be fast as well. And like in terms of like his route running was still crisp and sharp. He still ran by guys. Like we saw him catch plenty of deep passes, like still running by guys. So the speed is still there. I didn't really see any signs that I was like, okay, this guy is starting to get worse than he once was. I get, as I say, there's maybe those one or two picky plays where it's like, oh, he got caught on that play and you would expect him to have outrun everyone. But that's one or two plays. It's not like there was 5 plays a game where you're going, there's little signs here or there. It was maybe 5 plays over the course of the entire season. So no, I don't think there's any real huge signs of age being a huge factor in his game.
If you are Commanders general manager Adam Peters, are you concerned about giving McLaurin a big money contract extension that would start with the 2026 season, his age 31 season?
I'm not desperately concerned about the age. No, like there is certainly the trend of, receivers over 30 do tend to drop off pretty quickly. But that's just a trend. That doesn't mean that every single receiver is going to fall into that category. And sure, that like it would be somewhat of an outlier, but it's probably an outlier that Terry McLaurin was a mid-third round pick and managed to be so productive with 30 different quarterbacks being his over his like first 5 or 6 years of his career, right? So I would say he has been an outlier throughout most of his career, and I haven't seen really any signs that would suggest like he's going to fall off dramatically this season or next season. Like, I guess for me the question would be, is he going to be still your number one receiver in year 3 or 4 of a contract? And I guess that's probably where the debate is. It's going to be like, how long do you do the contract for? How much guaranteed money do you do in years 3? And if there's a year 4, how much guaranteed money do you do there? I'm guessing that's probably where the hang up would be on that. And maybe that would be where you'd have some concern, like he'd be going into what, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. You'd probably be thinking, maybe we don't necessarily want to be paying a 34-year-old receiver big money. But you'd probably be wanting to get off of this contract after sort of 33. So that's probably where you're looking at. But I don't see it as something I'm overly worried about. As you say, he's been pretty durable. He's been kind of an outlier in most of his career in that he was a third round pick that was instantly productive, and remained productive almost regardless of what quarterback he played with. And now he's finally got a quarterback that can get him the ball reliably. I would suggest he probably will remain productive for at least 2 more years, probably 3.
When a receiver ages, one of the first things to go, maybe the first thing to go, is his speed. Is Terry McLaurin such that when his speed goes, he'll be in real trouble? Or is there a lot more to his game to where the eventual erosion of his speed won't ruin him?
The speed is definitely a big part of his game, but it's not the only part of his game. Like contested catches doesn't really have anything to do with speed, and he is a really physical receiver that can do a lot of work after the catch, because he's physical and can break tackles and isn't afraid of contact. So that was all stuff that I think would still be a pretty effective part of his game. The timing routes, the comebacks, the curls, the hooks, the stuff like slants and stuff like that. I think he'd still all run those pretty well. I guess the speed would be the main factor, would be as a deep threat. And he's kind of been their only real deep threat for the past few years. And if that went away, then that would hurt the offense. I don't think it would necessarily mean that Terry couldn't still be an effective receiver. I think he'd still be a very, very effective receiver, because you can still, throw those contested jump balls and trust him to go up and get them. And I think he can still, as I say, run the good routes and on the other routes that you'd be asking him to run. He just wouldn't be the kind of top off the defense kind of threat that would demand a safety to be over the top of him constantly. But that would be where you look at the other side of the field and you go, well, we got a young Jalen Lane who we drafted that runs 4.3 that, could become a deep threat, and you can adjust the offense that way, and still have a very effective Terry McLaurin. So I don't think if his speed declines somewhat that he then becomes a terrible receiver. He doesn't rely on it that much, but it would take away from the overall picture of the offense because he's their one deep threat, and they need to find that from somewhere else.
Where would you say that Terry McLaurin ranks among receivers in the NFL? Top 10, top 15, top 20? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because there's a lot of good receivers in the NFL. There was that ESPN ranking that came out this past week, which had him around about 10th, which I would say is probably around about fair. I'd probably say in that sort of 10 to 15 range. I think, yeah, I think that's probably around about where I'd have him. You have your elite guys, your Justin Jeffersons and those guys, and then you have your kind of your second and your third tier guys that are all kind of bunched together, and I see McLaurin is definitely in that kind of range. So I think he's still a very, very good receiver. I think if he was a free agent today, I think there'd be probably 20 teams that would be offering him a pretty good contract. Yeah, I think I'd probably be. I still think a deal's going to get done. I think it's a case of it's mid-July. There's not a lot to talk about, and it feels like it's a bigger deal than it is. And obviously Terry's come out and said what he has said. I'm not too concerned about that. That's kind of the only real play he has in terms of leverage. Like his main leverage is he's going into the final year of a deal, so he'd be a free agent. But there's always a franchise tag if they want to use that. The other option he has is to kick up a fuss and request a trade and try to get public support, which I mean he already has, so he doesn't need to request a trade. Like the Commanders fans for the past 6 months have been saying, "Hey, pay this guy. He's our favorite player. He's been with us thick and thin, and we want him on this team for his life, his career." So he's already got that pressure on his side, and I can see the same debate on the Commander side of things. Like he is an older receiver. How long do you want to pay him for? And part of it, I also wonder was like, did they want to keep that cap flexibility going into kind of training camp to be like, hey, if a TJ Watt or a Trey Hendrickson or whatever star pass rusher were to become available, we could then make that move. But now they've made this move for Von Miller. That kind of suggests that they don't anticipate that. And obviously TJ Watt just got his new contract, and it sounds like Trey Hendrickson's going to get one as well. So now they can kind of focus on, okay, well, we kept that cap space handy in case we needed it. Now we know that we're not going to need it, so we can focus on McLaurin and get that deal done. I fully expect it to get done at some point.
Commanders analyst Mark Bullock of Bullock's Film Room, which you can find at markbullock.substack.com. Mark, thanks, and we'll talk soon.
And of course, talk soon.
All right. Ingrained Floor Covering Solutions, which provides residential and commercial carpet and wood flooring solutions for the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, and has been doing so for 2 generations and over 40 years. Ingrained Floor Covering Solutions is a full-service wood flooring and carpet provider. Wood floor cleaning, refinishing, and installation, carpet repair, carpet installation, and custom rug fabrication. Excellent and reliable work, and Ingrained Floor Covering Solutions self-performs all installations. No subcontractors. The person who you meet on the initial consultation or measurement will be the same person doing the actual work. The wood flooring in our house has taken quite a beating from our 2 small kids. This is exactly the kind of thing that Ingrained Floor Covering Solutions can fix. High-level wood floor cleaning and refinishing, screen and recoat, sand and finish, etc. And here's a special deal for listeners of this podcast. Visit ingrainedfs.com, mention that Al Galdi sent you, and you'll get a 10% discount. That's ingrainedfs.com. Mention that Al Galdi sent you, and you'll get a 10% discount. Let us discuss our rebuilding and tanking Wizards. Their play in the NBA 2K26 Summer League 2025 in Las Vegas is done. Ended with a 94-85 win over the New York Knicks on Saturday. The Wizards went 2-3 in Vegas Summer League play this year. Now, breaking down NBA Summer League stats is very risky and probably very foolish, but I did want to mention this. Jameer Watkins, over 5 games in this year's Vegas Summer League, totaled 20 steals, 5 games, 20 steals. That's impressive. The Wizards on June 26 took Jameer Watkins out of Florida State with the number 43 overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft. He played college basketball for 5 seasons, played for VCU for the 2020, 2021, and 2022, 2023 seasons, and played for FSU for the 2023, 2024, and 2024, 2025 seasons. He missed all of the 2021, 2022 season due to a torn right ACL that he suffered in September 2021. But yeah, a whopping 20 steals over 5 games in this year's Vegas Summer League, and thus concludes your Wizards Vegas Summer League stats breakdown. Meantime, our rebuilding and tanking Wizards, some news on Saturday evening. We on Saturday evening had reports that the Wizards had agreed on a contract buyout with Marcus Smart, who planned to sign with the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Wizards on Sunday evening announced having reached a buyout agreement with Smart, and the Wizards on Saturday evening announced having reached a buyout agreement with Blake Wesley. So the Wizards opening up some roster spots. The team had gotten to where the team just did not have enough room for all of the players who the team had. The Wizards this past February 6th, what was 2025 NBA Trade Deadline Day, announced having acquired Marcus Smart from the Memphis Grizzlies in a 3-team trade that included the Sacramento Kings. Smart is a veteran, is well regarded. He was NBA Defensive Player of the Year for the 2021-2022 regular season, but he's a road to nowhere for our rebuilding and tanking Wizards, so buying him out made sense. Smart had been under contract through next season, with him reportedly due to make $21.587 million for next season. As for Blake Wesley, the Wizards got him in the Kelly Olynyk trade. The Wizards on July 9th announced having traded Olynyk to the San Antonio Spurs for Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley, and a second-round pick in the 2026 NBA draft. Wesley was taken by the Spurs out of Notre Dame with the number 25 overall pick in the 2022 NBA draft. The Wizards got Kelly Olynyk from the New Orleans Pelicans in the 3-team trade that included the Houston Rockets and was announced on July 6, hours after the end of the NBA's moratorium period for this offseason. Also in that trade was the Wizards acquiring CJ McCollum from the Pelicans. We now know that McCollum will be wearing number 3 for the Wizards. First Wizards player to wear number 3 since Bradley Beal. And speaking of him, he now is a member of the Los Angeles Clippers, this off having been bought out by the Phoenix Suns. I wanted to wait until all of this was official to comment on it. The Suns this past Wednesday afternoon on X put up a post thanking Bradley Beal for his time with them, indicating confirmation that he had been bought out by them. And the Clippers this past Friday afternoon announced having signed Beal as an unrestricted free agent. What a disaster his tenure with the Suns ended up being. Beal, over 2 seasons with the Suns, played in just 106 of a possible 164 regular season games. The Suns, over 2 seasons with Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker as the team's big 3, made the playoffs just once and did not win a single playoff game. The Wizards' big picture waited too long to trade Bradley Beal, who they treated like the franchise player he never was, but their trade of Beal now does look a bit different given how poorly things went for him with the Suns, and given that he clearly is a declining player who just can't stay healthy. The Wizards on June 24th, 2023 announced having traded Beal to the Suns. The Wizards in the Bradley Beal trade sent Beal, Jordan Goodwin, and Isaiah Todd to the Suns for a number of assets. So the Wizards got 6 second-round draft picks, which were in the 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, and 2030 NBA drafts. The Wizards got 4 first-round pick swaps, which were in the 2024, 2026, 2028, and 2030 NBA drafts. And the Wizards got 2 players in Chris Paul and Landry Shamet, and the Wizards then flipped Paul. They, on July 6, 2023, a few hours after the end of the NBA's 2023 moratorium period, announced having traded Paul to the Golden State Warriors for Jordan Poole, Ryan Rollins, Patrick Baldwin Jr., a first-round pick in the 2030 NBA draft, a second-round pick in the 2027 NBA draft, and cash considerations. The Wizards got pennies on the dollar for Bradley Beal thanks to his no-trade clause. So the Wizards in July 2022, in re-signing Beal to the oh-so-wonderful 5-year reported $251 million Supermax contract, inexplicably gave him the only no-trade clause in an NBA contract at the time. And the no-trade clause ended up crippling the Wizards' ability to negotiate the best possible trade compensation for Beal. NBA insider Shams Charania, then of The Athletic and Stadium, he on June 19th, 2023 on FanDuel TV said that, quote, Washington, I'm told, had better offers on the table. But at the end of the day, Bradley Beal got to pick his choice, pick where he wanted to go, end quote. NBA insider David Aldridge of The Athletic and Wizards insider Josh Robbins of The Athletic, they on June 17th, 2023 reported that the Miami Heat offered the Wizards Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson, and several first-round picks for Bradley Beal. I, as a Wizards fan, was livid at the team for giving him that no-trade clause, and I was not happy about a clear conflict of interest. Bradley Beal's agent is Mark Bartelstein. The Wizards ended up trading Beal to the Suns, who have Mark's son, Josh Bartelstein, as chief executive officer. Tell me how that isn't a conflict of interest. And the Wizards in the trade got back pennies on the dollar. But Beal ended up being a big bust for the Suns. Time will tell on what the Wizards got back for Beal, but they did get back a good bit, just not as much as they would have gotten a year or two earlier. Now, Bradley Beal was a good player for the Wizards, so they took him out of the University of Florida with the number 3 overall pick in the 2012 NBA draft. He, over 11 seasons with the Wizards, did become one of the more prolific players in Bullets/Wizards history. Beal exited the Wizards number 1 in franchise history in regular season made threes and regular season three-point attempts, number 2 in franchise history in regular season points, number 2 in franchise history in regular season made field goals, number 3 in franchise history in regular season games, and number 3 in franchise history in regular season minutes. Beal, over the 2019-2020 and 2020-2021 regular seasons, averaged at least 30.5 points in each regular season. And Beal, in the Wizards' biggest game since the 1979 NBA Finals, came up big. May 15th, 2017, the Wizards' 115-105 loss at the Boston Celtics in Eastern Conference Semis Game 7. Beal played for a game-high 45 minutes, 55 seconds. He went 5 for 10 on threes, 7 for 12 on twos, and 9 for 10 on free throws. He finished with 38 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists versus 2 turnovers, and 2 steals. But Bradley Beal was never the franchise player who the team wanted him to be and paid him to be. And let me make this clear. I don't blame Beal for that. I blame our team for that. Our team, the Wizards, they have a long way to go until they are truly competitive. But we as Wizards fans can take solace in the Bradley Beal trade perhaps not being as bad as it initially seemed.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, and maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today? There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace so you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm finally learning French after taking classes in high school and thrilled to finish what I'd started years ago. And my favorite part about Babbel is that it's dialogue-based. It helps me to actually practice conversations, and the speech recognition ensures I'm saying words correct them all. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/BlueWire. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/BlueWire, spelled BABBEL.com/BlueWire. Babbel.com/BlueWire. Rules and restrictions may apply.
The Nationals had two All-Stars this season, left fielder James Wood and starting pitcher Mackenzie Gore, but each guy over the weekend had a forgettable series in the Nats' first series since the All-Star break. The Nats over the weekend lost 2 out of 3 games against the San Diego Padres at Nationals Park. Friday evening, a 7-2 loss to the Padres in a game in which the Nats overcame a 2-0 eighth-inning deficit by scoring 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th, but then allowed 5 runs in the top of the 9th. Saturday night, a 4-2 win over the Padres in a game for which the start was delayed for an hour and 5 minutes due to rain. But Sunday afternoon, an 8-1 loss to the Padres in a game in which the Nats allowed 5 runs in the top of the first and 8 runs over the first 3 innings. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 39-60, tied for a season worst 21 games below 500, third worst record in the National League, and the Nats' run differential now is minus 112, second worst run differential in the NL. Much more on the Nats on the field over the weekend in a bit, but we now are 10 days away from the 2025 MLB Trade Deadline, which is on July 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern. We on this podcast have talked about the Nats, given that their rebuild is not working, possibly not just trading players on expiring contracts, but also trading starting pitcher Mackenzie Gore, who is only under team control through the 2027 season and is at the same point contractually that outfielder Juan Soto was at when the Nats traded him on August 2nd, 2022, what was 2022 MLB Trade Deadline Day. Well, Nats interim general manager Mike DeBartolo on Saturday afternoon in a side session with reporters after a press conference off the team signing the player who it took with the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 MLB draft, shortstop Eli Willits, indicated that the team is not trading Gore in the lead up to this year's trade deadline. Now, that certainly may have been gamesmanship on the part of DeBartolo, i.e. act like you're not trading Gore in order to drive up the asking price for Gore. But we, during this side session with reporters for DeBartolo on Saturday afternoon, had this back and forth between my co-host on the Nats Chat podcast, Nats insider Mark Zuckerman of MASNsports.com, and DeBartolo. Here you go.
You mentioned the young core that you have to build around. Is it safe to say that that group will remain here intact, or do you have to explore if somebody calls you?
I'm looking to keep the young core group of our best players together. Certainly in my job, if someone calls, you always listen to whatever someone has to say. But trading away, our really high-quality young players is not something that I'm looking to do right now.
Do you believe that this organization is ready to add to what you already have with a time frame of the next few years versus saying we have to redo the way the rebuild went?
I would say we're still in the evaluation process of timelines and things like that. So that's still, again, just being in the job for 2 weeks and everything, still evaluating timelines. But, I think, we're looking to just acquire young talent and just to bolster what we have and just become competitive as soon as we possibly can. But I don't want to put a timeline on it.
All right, so Mike DeBartolo said, quote, trading away our really high-quality young players is not something that I'm looking to do right now, end quote. But he also said that, quote, we're still in the evaluation process of timelines, end quote. And that was in response to a question about something that I've talked about a bunch, which is the Nats rebuild a failure and thus the Nats need to start the rebuild over, or is the Nats rebuild salvageable? And DeBartolo, interestingly, was non-committal on that issue. If you view the Nats rebuild as salvageable, then you keep Mackenzie Gore because he's a foundational piece. But if you view the Nats rebuild as a failure and thus the Nats need to start the rebuild over, then you should be open to trading Gore in the lead up to this deadline. Barry Svrluga, columnist for the Washington Post, and a guy who knows the inner workings of the Nats quite well. He, in an appearance on Friday's show, episode 1114, said that he did not think that trading Mackenzie Gore was something that Mike DeBartolo could do on his own, that he would have to have ownership approval to do that. I agree with Barry on that. Personally, I lean toward the Nats rebuild being salvageable as opposed to being a failure to the point at which the rebuild needs to be restarted, but it is a close call. By the way, as mentioned, the Nats on Saturday afternoon announced the signing of Eli Willits. He's just 17, was taken out of a high school in Oklahoma, was expected to be cheaper than his slot value, and sure enough, he reportedly got $8.2 million, a record for a high school player, but well below his slot value of $11.0759 million. He signed for nearly $3 million less than his slot value. The Nats are using the savings to spend more on players taken later in the draft. That is a viable and I think astute draft strategy. But that is something that the Nats end up signing Willits for nearly $3 million less than his slot value. As for the struggles of James Wood and Mackenzie Gore in the Nats losing 2 out of 3 games against the Padres over the weekend, Wood was the Nats' number 2 batter in each of the 3 games. The 7-2 loss to the Padres on Friday evening, Wood, as the Nats starting left fielder, went 0 for 3 with a walk, a stolen base, and 3 strikeouts. He made a nice defensive play. Top of the 5th, Wood made a diving backhanded catch of a fly ball by Xander Bogaerts for a leadoff full count flyout. But also for Wood in this game was him being involved in a terrible play for the Nats. Josh Bell, with the game tied at 2 in the bottom of the 8th, had a 2-out infield single on a 1-2 pitch on a ball that went off Padres reliever Jason Adam. But Bell then, with runners at the corners and Nathaniel Lowe batting, was tagged out in a rundown between first and second base in a failed attempted steal of second base for the 3rd out. The idea on the play was for Bell to get caught in a rundown in order for the runner on third, James Wood, to have enough time to score. But the play that was put on by Nats interim manager Miguel Cairo did not work out. The 4-2 win over the Padres on Saturday night, Wood, as the Nats starting left fielder, went 0 for 4 with a strikeout, and the 8-1 loss to the Padres on Sunday afternoon, Wood, as the Nats starting DH, went 1 for 4 with a single. James Wood, for this month of July, now has an OPS of just .632. He is not having a good month. The Nats in this series were not good offensively. The Nats over the 3 games totaled just 7 runs. The 7-2 loss to the Padres on Friday evening, the Nats scored just 2 runs. It did have 9 hits, but 8 of them were singles to go with a home run, and the Nats worked just 1 walk, and the Nats struck out 13 times. The Nats went 1 for 4 with runners in scoring position. The Nats got worked by Padres starting pitcher Dylan Cease. He tossed 5 1/3 scoreless innings with 10 strikeouts versus no walks. The 4-2 win over the Padres on Saturday night. The Nats were okay offensively. 4 runs on just 6 hits, which were a home run, 2 doubles and 3 singles. The Nats worked 3 walks and went 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position. And the 8-1 loss to the Padres on Sunday afternoon, the Nats scored just 1 run, totaled just 6 hits, worked just 2 walks, and went 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. The 6 hits were a home run, a double, and 4 singles. Padres starting pitcher and former Nats prospect Nick Pivetta allowed 1 run in 6 innings. And yeah, Mackenzie Gore, he in the 8-1 loss to the Padres on Sunday afternoon got wrecked. He allowed 8 runs in 2 1/3 innings. He gave up 8 hits, which were 2 home runs, 3 doubles, and 3 singles. He issued 3 walks. He recorded 2 strikeouts. He threw 75 pitches, 46 strikes versus 29 balls. Gore had a nightmare of a top of the 1st, during which he allowed 5 runs on a home run, 2 doubles, a single, and 2 walks, and threw 37 pitches. The homer was a first pitch grand slam by Xander Bogaerts to left field for a 4-0 Padres lead. What happened with Mackenzie Gore on Sunday afternoon? He has been so good this season, but he on Sunday afternoon got shellacked. Here was Miguel Cairo during his postgame press conference on Sunday afternoon on Gore, and then you'll hear multiple follow-up exchanges.
I think he just fall behind, and they got good at bats against him early in the game, and one pitch it changed the the whole first inning. That pitch middle into, I think it was middle in. I didn't even want to see it. But, just a couple walks. Arraez is always paying the butt. When he get in the bat, but I think he just fall behind in the count, and they get good at bats. That's all we can. That's what I can say about that. But the positive thing was Rolich and Lara and Cole Henry. They pitched good out of the bullpen, and save the rest of the bullpen too. So.
When McKenzie was struggling like that early on, how did you determine how long to keep him in the game and when you thought was enough for him?
Sometimes, you got to think about the other guys in the bullpen that we used the first 2 days. So it was like how we were managing. So like that, we don't use the guys that we used the first 2 days. But, Rolich and Lara, they pitched really well, and Cole Henry. So it gives us a little breather. But, it's tough when hot at one and you fall behind 6-0, and it happens.
Ken's is a pretty competitive, emotional guy. How did you see him respond and react to the way that he pitched? Because that wasn't characteristic.
I know he's disappointed, but you got to put it behind. We come back tomorrow, but he was, of course, you're going to be disappointed that he didn't do, the way it's supposed to go. So, but I see the bullpen has been doing a really good job. Like I say, when you face Pivetta, a really good pitcher, and they score 6 on you, it's going to be tough. He's still going to pitch, and still we get first 2 innings. We saw like 20, almost 45 pitches the first 2 innings, so we were getting good at bat too. But he's tough. So.
All right. Well, what's funny is that Mackenzie Gore gave the Nats their worst outing from a starting pitcher in this series. The Nats starting pitching in the series otherwise was good. The 7-2 loss to the Padres on Friday evening. Michael Soroka allowed 1 run in 5 innings, despite not having his best stuff. He gave up just 3 hits, all of which were singles. He issued 2 walks. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He threw 85 pitches, 50 strikes versus 35 balls. The Nats this past December 19th announced having agreed with Soroka as a free agent on a 1-year contract. What was a 1-year deal worth a reported $9 million. Is he a viable trade chip for the Nats in the lead up to this year's trade deadline? Soroka now for this regular season, 14 starts, ERA of 5.10, but a whip of 1.15 and a strikeouts per 9 innings of 9.58. Soroka was on the 15-day injured list April 4th, retroactive to April 1st to May 7th due to a right arm bicep strain. The 4-2 win over the Padres on Saturday night. Mitchell Parker had a much-needed good outing. He allowed 2 runs in 6 innings. He gave up 5 hits, which were 2 doubles and 3 singles. He had 4 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He threw a lot of strikes, 82 pitches, 57 strikes versus just 25 balls. So Parker, in the top of the 3rd, allowed 2 runs on a leadoff opposite field double by Jose Iglesias into right field, a 1-out RBI double by Martin Maldonado to left center field on an 0-2 pitch, and a 2-out RBI single by Luis Arraez to right center field to tie the game at 2. The RBI double by Maldonado came on a fly ball that went off center fielder Jacob Young in his attempt at a leaping backhanded catch, and he then crashed into the outfield wall. Scary scene, but Young thankfully was okay. Parker tossed the scoreless top of the 5th despite giving up 2 singles and a walk. He generated a swinging strikeout of Manny Machado with the bases loaded and 2 outs. So Mitchell Parker now for this regular season, 20 starts, ERA of exactly 5, whip of 1.40. And the Nats bullpen in the team losing 2 out of 3 games against the Padres over the weekend was good, with the exception of 1 reliever in 1 game. The 7-2 loss to the Padres on Friday evening, 7 Nats relievers combined to allow 6 runs in 4 innings. Miguel Cairo was managing this game like it was Game 7 of the World Series. He used 7 relievers in this game. And what happened with the bullpen in this game was mostly about closer Kyle Finnegan, who imploded in the top of the 9th. Finnegan allowed 5 runs in a third of an inning. He was a mess in the top of the 9th. He gave up a leadoff first pitch opposite field single by Jake Cronenworth through the left side of the infield. Finnegan then gave up an ultra-weak opposite field single by Jose Iglesias in a ball that just barely got beyond the infield dirt. Finnegan then gave up an RBI sac bunt by Elias Diaz for a 3-2 Padres lead. Finnegan then gave up a one-out single by Fernando Tatis Jr. into left field on a 1-2 pitch. Tatis then stole second base. Finnegan then issued a one-out 5-pitch walk of Luis Ariz to load the bases. Finnegan then gave up a one-out grand slam by Manny Machado to left field on a 1-2 pitch for a 7-2 Padres lead, and Finnegan then was pulled from the game. A horrendous outing for Kyle Finnegan, but he did bounce back in the next game. The 4-2 win over the Padres on Saturday night. 3 Nats relievers combined for 3 scoreless innings. Finnegan tossed a perfect top of the 9th with 2 strikeouts for his first save since, get this, June 6th. Saturday was July 19th. This save by Finnegan, his first since June 6th. A remarkable stat made possible by the Nats' lack of save chances and also Finnegan pitching poorly. In the 8-1 loss to the Padres on Sunday afternoon, 3 Nats relievers did combine for 6 2/3 scoreless innings. Jackson Rutledge tossed 3 2/3 scoreless innings with 3 swinging strikeouts. Andre Lara tossed 2 scoreless innings, and Cole Henry tossed a scoreless top of the 9th. Also, some injury updates for the Nats. Reliever Derek Law is in fact done for the season, a season that for him never began. The Nats on March 26th announced having placed Law on the 15-day injured list, retroactive to March 24th due to right forearm inflammation. The Nats on July 5th announced having transferred Law to the 60-day injured list, and Law in a pregame session with reporters on Friday afternoon revealed that he needs to undergo season-ending surgery for a partial tear of the flexor tendon in his right elbow. This season would have been his age 34 season, so he is an older pitcher, and he is set to be a free agent this coming offseason. He ends up not pitching at all this season, off being a workhorse for the Nats last season. Law, in the 2024 regular season, 75 games, 90 innings, ERA at 2.60, whip of 1.18, wins above replacement per Baseball Reference of 1.9. Meantime, starting pitcher Trevor Williams. Miguel Cairo, in a pregame session with reporters on Friday afternoon, revealed that Williams this past Thursday underwent an internal brace procedure to repair his partially torn UCL in his right elbow. His season is done. The Nats on July 4th announced having put Williams on the 15-day injured list due to a right elbow sprain. The Nats on July 8th announced having transferred Williams to the 60-day injured list. The Nats this past December 31st announced having agreed with Williams on a 2-year contract for him to re-sign with the team. The deal, a 2-year contract worth a reported $14 million, but this season, his age 33 season, was a disaster. Williams for this regular season, 17 starts, ERA of 6.21, whip of 1.54. Next up for the Nats is a 3-game series against the Cincinnati Reds at Nationals Park. Game 1 for the Nats against the Reds Monday evening at 6:45. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2 for the Nats against the Reds Tuesday evening at 6:45. Brad Lord will be the Nats starting pitcher as he is back in the Nats rotation. Miguel Cairo revealed that during his pregame session with reporters on Friday afternoon. Lord replaces Shinosuke Ogasawara, who struggled over his first 2 MLB regular season starts and who the Nats on Saturday night, July 12th, announced having optioned to AAA Rochester. I'm excited to see Lord back in the rotation. He should have never been taken out of the rotation. He was in it while Michael Soroka was injured. Lord was showing improvement as a starting pitcher. The problem with Lord being back in the rotation, though, is that this is an indictment of starting pitcher Cade Cavalli, who is struggling for AAA Rochester and who should have been in the Nats Major League rotation a long time ago, given that the Nats took him out of the University of Oklahoma with the number 22 overall pick in the 2020 MLB draft. He has dealt with injury and ineffectiveness, and here we are more than 5 years since the Nats drafted him, and he still is not a fixture in the team's Major League rotation. And Game 3 for the Nats against the Reds, Wednesday afternoon at 12:05, Michael Soroka will be the Nats starting pitcher.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, and maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today? There's over a dozen languages available to learn at your own pace so you can achieve your goals with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm finally learning French after taking classes in high school and thrilled to finish what I'd started years ago. And my favorite part about Babbel is that it's dialogue-based. It helps me to actually practice conversations, and the speech recognition ensures I'm saying words correctement. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at Babbel.com/BlueWire. Get up to 55% off at Babbel.com/BlueWire, spelled BABBEL.com/BlueWire. Babbel.com/BlueWire. Rules and restrictions may apply.
The Orioles, as we have discussed at length on this podcast, are being hammered by injury for a second consecutive season, and it may now be that one of their best starting pitchers, Grayson Rodriguez, will not throw a single pitch in MLB's 2025 regular season. Orioles interim manager Tony Mansolino, in a pregame session with reporters this past Friday afternoon, revealed that Rodriguez has been shut down due to right elbow soreness. The O's on March 27th announced having put Rodriguez on the 15-day injured list, retroactive to March 24th, due to right elbow inflammation. He, during his recovery, suffered a mild right lat strain. The O's on April 28th announced having transferred Rodriguez to the 60-day injured list, and now he has been shut down due to right elbow soreness. Terrible news. You hope like heck that he's not headed for UCL surgery, but you can't dismiss that as a possibility at this point. Meantime, the O's over the weekend lost 2 out of 3 games at the Tampa Bay Rays, who in this regular season are playing their home games at Steinbrenner Field at the New York Yankees spring training facility in Tampa. The Rays' home ballpark, Tropicana Field, is unavailable due to extensive damage caused by Hurricane Milton. Friday night, an 11-1 loss at the Rays. Saturday night, a 4-3 loss at the Rays in a game in which the O's blew a 2-0 seventh-inning lead. But Sunday afternoon, a 5-3 win at the Rays in a game that featured a rain delay of 2 hours and 36 minutes. Also, Tony Mansolino and Orioles right fielder Ramon Laureano got ejected during an Orioles 3-run third in which Laureano struck out on an attempted check swing for the second out and then slammed his batting helmet. Not often a team has multiple ejections in an inning in which that team scores multiple runs, but we had that in this game. And we also had the O's, Joe Angel, being back in the win column.
And the Orioles again in the win column.
Yes, Joe, the win column. The O's in this regular season now are 44-54, third worst record in the American League. The Nationals have the third worst record in the National League. The O's have the third worst record in the American League. Not a good series for the Orioles offense, just 9 runs over the 3 games. The 11-1 loss at the Rays on Friday night. The O's scored just 1 run, totaled just 5 hits, worked just 2 walks, and went 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. The 5 hits were a triple, a double, and 3 singles. Gunnar Henderson had the triple and the double. He is the Orioles starting shortstop and number 3 batter, went 2 for 4 with a triple and a double. The 4-3 loss at the Rays on Saturday night. The O's scored just 3 runs despite totaling 11 hits, which were 4 doubles and 7 singles, but the O's worked no walks and went just to 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. And the 5-3 win at the Rays on Sunday afternoon. The O's scored 5 runs, totaled 9 hits, which were 3 home runs, 2 doubles, and 4 singles. The O's did work just 1 walk and did go just 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. So the O's in the series went just 3 for 24 with runners in scoring position. Three key players for the Orioles offense on Sunday afternoon were Jackson Holliday, Ryan O'Hearn, and Gunnar Henderson. Holliday, as the Orioles starting second baseman and number one batter, went 1 for 4 with a solo homer and a walk. O'Hearn, as the Orioles starting first baseman and number 4 batter, went 1 for 4 with a solo homer. Henderson, as the Orioles starting shortstop and number 3 batter, went 1 for 4 with a 2-run double. The O's lost 2 out of 3 games at the Rays over the weekend, despite the starting pitching being good in 2 of the 3 games. The 11-1 loss at the Rays on Friday night. Charlie Morton was bad. This for just the 3rd time in 9 starts. He officially allowed 7 runs in 5 1/3 innings. He gave up 8 hits, which were 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and 4 singles. He issued 3 walks. He recorded 4 strikeouts. He did throw a lot of strikes, 86 pitches, 56 strikes, 30 balls. The 4-3 loss at the Rays on Saturday night. Dean Kramer was terrific. He allowed 1 run in 7 innings with 6 strikeouts. He gave up just 3 hits, which were a double and 2 singles. He did issue 3 walks, but he threw a good number of strikes, 98 pitches, 63 strikes, 35 balls. Kramer this season has had this Jekyll and Hyde thing of being great at home but bad on the road. Well, in this game was great on the road, and he now has gotten his ERA to nearly below 4. Kramer, for this regular season, 20 games, including 19 starts, ERA of 4.06, whip of 1.25. And the 5-3 win at the Rays on Sunday afternoon, Trevor Rogers was good again. He allowed 2 runs in 6 innings. He gave up 5 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 3 singles. He issued 2 walks. He recorded 3 strikeouts. He threw a lot of strikes, 91 pitches, 63 strikes, 28 balls. Trevor Rogers at the major league level for this regular season, 7 starts, ERA of 1.74, whip of 0.87. The Orioles bullpen in the team losing 2 out of 3 games at the Rays over the weekend. Bad in games 1 and 2, good in game 3. The 11-1 loss at the Rays on Friday night. 3 Orioles relievers combined to allow 4 runs in 2 2/3 innings. Those 3 relievers, Grant Wolfram, Corbin Morton, and Cullen Selby. Not exactly the A bullpen. Grant Wolfram officially allowed 4 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He and a Rays 6-run 6 gave up 2 home runs, including a 1-out opposite field grand slam by Yandy Diaz to right field for a 10-0 Rays lead. The O's on July 13th announced having recalled Wolfram from AAA Norfolk. Corbin Martin tossed a scoreless bottom of the 7th despite issuing 2 walks and a wild pitch. He threw 24 pitches, just 11 strikes versus 13 balls. So the O's on Friday afternoon announced having signed Martin to a 1-year major league contract for the 2025 season. They on July 13th announced having designated Martin for assignment. And Cullen Selby tossed a scoreless bottom of the 8th despite giving up a leadoff single. The O's on July 10th announced having recalled Selby from AAA Norfolk. The 4-3 loss at the Rays on Saturday night. 2 Orioles relievers combined to allow 3 runs, 2 earned in 1 inning. Seranthony Dominguez officially allowed 3 runs, 2 earned in a third of an inning. He had a Rays 3-run 8th, faced 5 batters, but got just 1 out. He gave up a leadoff single and a 1-out RBI single, issued 2 walks and a wild pitch, and allowed 3 stolen bases. Not good. He threw 24 pitches, just 11 strikes versus 13 balls. Gregory Soto officially tossed 2/3 of a scoreless inning. He came into the game in the bottom of the 8th with the bases loaded, 1 out, and the game tied at 2. He, on the first pitch that he threw, induced a grounder by Jonathan Aranda to first baseman Ryan O'Hearn, but O'Hearn committed a throwing error in throwing home, and 2 runs scored on the play. The 5-3 win at the Rays on Sunday afternoon. 3 Orioles relievers combined to allow 1 run in 3 innings. Yanier Cano tossed a perfect bottom of the 7th. Andrew Kittredge tossed a scoreless bottom of the 8th. And Felix Bautista allowed a run in 1 inning. Did get the save, but he in the bottom of the 9th was not good. He allowed a run on a walk and an RBI single, and he issued 2 other walks. It did generate 2 swinging strikeouts. Also with the O's in recent days has been the team signing 3 of its 4 first-round picks in the 2025 MLB Draft, in which the O's had the numbers 19, 30, 31, and 37 overall picks. So the O's on Friday morning announced having signed catcher Ike Irish, who they took out of Auburn with the number 19 overall pick. The O's on Friday evening announced having signed catcher Caden Bodine, who they took out of Coastal Carolina with the number 30 overall pick. And the O's on Saturday morning announced having signed shortstop Vahiva Aloy, who they took out of the University of Arkansas with the number 31 overall pick. Next up for the O's is a 4-game series at the Cleveland Guardians. Game 1, Monday evening at 6:40, Tomoyuki Suzuki Sagano will be the Orioles starting pitcher. Game 2 Tuesday evening at 6:40, Brandon Young will be the Orioles starting pitcher. Game 3 Wednesday evening at 6:40, the Orioles starting pitcher for that game is to be announced. And Game 4 Thursday afternoon at 1:10, the Orioles starting pitcher for that game is to be announced. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Tuesday show, episode 1116. We'll have plenty for you on the Commanders, as Tuesday is the day on which veterans report for 2025 Commanders training camp, and is the day on which General Manager Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn will speak at a joint press conference. Also on Tuesday's show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats are home to the Cincinnati Reds Monday evening at 6:45 in Game 1 of a 3-game series. The O's are at the Cleveland Guardians Monday evening at 6:40 in Game 1 of a 4-game series. Have a great rest of your Monday, and we'll talk to you on Tuesday.
Growth and development.
Want to get paid to listen to podcasts? At Pilot Podcasts, we connect podcasters and brands with real listeners like you before they launch their shows. It's easy. Sign up for free. Listen to podcasts before they go live and get paid for sharing your feedback. Your insights help make podcasts better, and you get rewarded for your time. Visit pilotpodcast.com/register today to sign up. That's PILOT podcast.com/register. Pilot Podcasts. Get paid to shape the next big podcast.